Happy belated Valentine's Day, everyone, from the Golden Pathway. We are all happy to be here with you today, and we're sending you lots of love from our hearts to yours. We also want to say Happy President's Day, which is coming up on Monday, and we're excited about that as well as we look at climbing the mystical path, how to be victorious in 2024. The Golden Pathway, as you know, is a presentation that we do once a month to help bridge the gap between the seven major world religions and the teachings of the ascended masters. We are glad to have you with us today, and we're looking forward to a wonderful presentation about having the victory consciousness. But are you espousing this consciousness to the fullest? Do you have a victory consciousness? Mighty Victory says the person with the highest victory consciousness wins in all cases. So in this session, Be Victorious in 2024, you'll learn why it is so important to embrace the victory consciousness right now and how to overcome any adversity that would try to prevent you from having that. You will get 6 strategies to help you be victorious this year. Now, I don't know what this means, but one has to do with driving over a dinosaur. Okay. So, so we'll learn what the victory consciousness has to do with the paths of mysticism and adeptship, and there will be a surprise gift for you at the end. We welcome today our beloved Reverend Justina Torres. She's the manager of Summit University and a dean of Summit University Online. We love her dearly. She's been at Summit U many years, although this is the first time she's been a presenter for the Golden Pathway. So we're really glad to have you, Justina. And she's been helping to develop SU's online learning platform and their online spiritual curriculum. She creates courses and instructions. Justina was blessed to be raised in the teachings of the Ascended Masters, so she's a lifelong student, and she has a passion for discussing spiritual topics. She lives with her husband and son in Chicago, and fortunately for us, she manages to make it to Montana at least 2, 3, 4 times a year. So welcome, Justina. We are so glad to have you with us today.
Thanks so much, Patricia, for that very joyous and inspiring opening. It was almost tough to follow your own introduction like that.
You're welcome.
But hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good day to wherever you are in the world. As Patricia said, my name is Justina Torres. I'm a minister, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you. Some of you I recognize from our Summit University seminars and programs. Some of you, your names are a little bit newer to me, but maybe you know a little bit about me already or have seen me around in the Summit Lighthouse. While Rosalinda is getting the slides ready, why don't I just start with an opening invocation, or this will be a prayer to help us really be present in this discussion this evening about the victory consciousness. You'll have to forgive me, it's evening for me here and it's dark outside. So wherever you are, let's just take a moment and take a deep breath and feel our attention center in our heart as I say this prayer. In the name of my mighty I am presence and holy Christ self, and in the name of the mighty I am presence and holy Christ selves of all of those who are gathered here with us, we call to you, beloved mighty victory, beloved cosmic being victory, and to your victory legions, we call to beloved Guruma and Lanello to be with us in this conversation about the victory consciousness. Help us to better understand what we can do personally to be more victorious in 2024, what we can do to anchor more of our Christhood and our beings in 2024. We call now for the protection and blessing and sealing of this conversation this evening. And we call for the light of God that never fails to be present in our lives and in the lives of our family and our friends and our loved ones. We ask this to be done in accordance with God's holy will. In the name of the Father, the Mother, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, be victorious in 2024. As Patricia told you, I'm the Summit University manager and dean of SU Online. So I'm here sharing some teachings about the victory consciousness that primarily were taught in Summit University many years ago. But before we do that, I'd like to share a little bit more about myself, just for those of you who don't know me, so you have a little bit of a better sense of who's talking to you this evening. So, as Patricia said, I'm the manager and dean of Summit University. I actually have a Bachelor of Arts degree in environmental design and a master's of architecture. Um, I never had the opportunity to practice architecture. I graduated a year after the US housing market crash, and there were zero jobs in the architecture field at that time. So I had the opportunity to start working in Summit University in 2010. And I thought it would be a couple of years, but it's been 14 years and I'm still here in Summit University. I enjoy being a part of the educational branch of the Summit Lighthouse. That's what Summit University is. I completed Summit University's ministerial training, 2 levels, and was commissioned as a lay minister in 2022. And as Patricia said, I'm here in Chicago with my husband and my son. And a fun fact that even those of you who know me may not know that I attended my first Summit University seminar in July of 2002. I was 17, if you want to do that math. And the topic that was presented was the path of the Eastern adept. I I remember sleeping through most of the sessions. Frankly, there were several meditation practices there, but something sparked inside of me in that first summer seminars, a great love for studying the teachings of the ascended masters and learning how to put them into practice in daily life. And so that seminar and all of the other opportunities that I had with Summit University leading up to 2010 really inspired me to this amazing opportunity from the ascended masters to learn more about what it means to walk the spiritual path. In Summit University, though, we believe that the true teachers are the ascended masters and their anointed messengers. And so on the next slide, you'll see an image of our messenger, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, who we fondly refer to as Mother because of her dedication to the Mother Flame. Summit University was founded in 1973 by Elizabeth and her husband Mark, and was known at that time as Ascended Master University, and was later the at a later time the name was changed to Summit University. But Summit University has been in existence for over 50 years. And you see in this quote from Mother, she talks about how the purpose of Summit University is to bring your heart, your chakras, your soul, your mind, and your will into harmony with the degrees of consciousness of the entire spirit of the Great White Brotherhood. And of course, that term white doesn't refer to a race or a religion or a creed. It refers to the white light that surrounds those saints and sages that we know of, East and West, who pursued a path back to God and became one with God in the ritual of the Ascension. But isn't that a beautiful statement about the purpose of Summit University? So, like I said in this presentation, I'll be sharing some teachings with you that were given by Mother in Summit University in 1977. And I really hope that these teachings help you gain a greater sense of harmony with the entire spirit of the Great White Brotherhood. So, this evening we'll be talking about what it means to have the victory consciousness. And I'm sure from some of you have heard about the victory consciousness over many years. And you know how important it is to really develop a victory consciousness, so that can be a great acceleration for you on the spiritual path and a great boon. So for those of you who are familiar with what we'll be talking about, I'm hoping that this serves as a reminder, maybe revisiting some teachings that you've heard many years ago, but you need an extra reminder to put them into practice this year. We're also going to look at 6 strategies to help you be victorious this year, plus a bonus strategy. And yes, as Patricia said, one of those strategies does have to do with driving over a dinosaur. We'll talk about why the victory consciousness is so important to our spiritual path and how it relates to the paths of mysticism and adeptship. There'll be some time for some questions at the end. So please, if you have questions, just jot them down, and we'll talk about those towards the end of this presentation. And then I'll have a special gift for you. If you've got some ability to take notes, I encourage you to do that. And let's get started. So before we dive into the victory consciousness, I wanted to share with you a statement from Elizabeth Clare Prophet that I read when I was taking ministerial training. This was something that was really profound and inspired me. And it comes from this book, Fire from Heaven, which is a series of lectures or sermons that the Ascended Master Jesus gave through Mrs. Prophet on the Holy Spirit in the 1970s. So this statement comes from Sermon 2, and I'm going to read a longer statement than what you see on the slide. She said, "Many of us have heard the teachings of Jesus Christ and of the Ascended Masters for so long that we think that by the words we believe, or by the text we believe, or by the hearing of the repetition of the word, we are believing. But do we believe? The definition of believing is becoming the Christ. Fulfilling the law of the Christ is the only real belief. If we have not that kind of belief, then our belief is a mockery, and we are confusing the words that we have on the pages of our scriptures for the original flame that ought to be enshrined in our hearts." So I'm sure you can imagine that as we're talking about the victory consciousness, we're really looking to this question of, have we become the victory consciousness in our lives, even if we've known of it for many, many years? I can say I can't claim to have fully become the victory consciousness yet. I'm guessing that many of you might be wondering if you have as well. So let's just take this time over these next few minutes and explore together what we can do to become this consciousness in 2024 if we're not there yet. So there's really no better master to study the victory consciousness with than the cosmic being, Mighty Victory. If you're familiar with the I Am movement, he was one of the many ascended masters who worked with the I Am movement and was referred to as the tall master from Venus. And he's really the one who has demonstrated over thousands upon thousands of years what it means to become the victory consciousness. And so we're going to hear a short excerpt from a dictation or a message from this master that was delivered through the messenger Mark Prophet on July 7th, 1968. It's about 4 minutes long, and it's going to set the stage for the strategies and keys that we'll be talking about in the rest of this presentation. So we'll hear that excerpt.
I tell you that the gods look down upon mankind, the immortal presences of all life, and say, when will you find your freedom and your victory? When will you accept it? When will you be free? And we know from past experience that it does not require hours and days and months of necessity. It requires a moment of dedication and a God determination that you will never again accept anything but your victory to start the flow of that specific energy. And when that specific energy is started, if it is sustained and fed each day, and men believe in it and love it, what do you think is going to happen when other conditions come up against the pressure of that mighty stream of victory that flows from the heart of your own divine presence? I tell you, it is going to produce a miracle in your life which you will ever be grateful for, and which you will love to pass on to your children and to your children's children. This is an heritage of magnificence. It is something that is greater than just the sense of struggle which mankind have engaged in for so long, the sense of struggle that continues to produce the struggle, as Saint Germain has said. This is not what we want for you. It is not what you want for yourself, and it is not what God wants for you. God wants for you the joy, the joy, the joy, the surging joy of the reality of life, in the understanding that whereas you may have committed acts that themselves have created karmic responsibility that must return to you by cosmic law, you can also welcome these conditions as they return and say, I am grateful, for now this is one more object out of the way to my freedom and my victory. You cannot then become discouraged, but encouraged by the flow of your karma, and understand that when God sees your attitude is such, it will be, as has been said by beloved Moria, that the devil, that proud spirit, cannot stand to be mocked. And so when you learn to laugh at adversity and to accept it and to realize that adversity is only something that becomes a path to your freedom, you will realize then that you might even welcome it. And this in itself is an attitude of victory. For you can learn to overcome it, to mitigate it, to loosen its hold upon you, and to ride up over it. This is the meaning of victory, and this is the meaning of life. For life, when it is won, and when attainment comes unto a son of God, by his own acts of acceptance of the pressure of the divine presence, this is a beautiful thing to behold for any individual. He realizes then that not by a vicarious act of another, but by a vicarious act of himself, he has identified with the God presence. And the God presence has performed it for him, but through him, that is to say, through the veil of his own flesh. And so the Christ becomes a divine mediator. And the mediator acts to mediate the differences between the human self and the divine. When this is accomplished, what a magnificent thing it is. What a joy. What a perfect manifestation of your victory. For your victory belongs to you now. You do not have to wait for it until some far distant mañana. It is here with you, within your God presence, in that pulsing stream of life that descends from your own God presence now.
Isn't that an amazing excerpt from the cosmic being victory? I feel like it's one of those passages, one of those messages that you can take and really use to climb your way right out of the human condition and towards your I am presence and the ascension. So this is going to be the foundation of the keys that we'll be talking about, and we're going to start here with the meaning of victory. So here we see several keys just in this statement. When you learn to laugh at adversity and to accept it, and when you realize that adversity is something that can become a path to your freedom, you might even welcome it. This in itself is an attitude of victory, for you can learn to overcome adversity, to mitigate it, to cause it to loosen its hold upon you, and to ride up over it. This is the meaning of victory and the meaning of life. Overcoming adversity is the meaning of victory and the meaning of life. Have you ever thought about facing challenges in your life that way? That it's really, when we do that, it's the meaning of victory and the meaning of life. I feel like that's such a powerful statement and a big shift from what the world would have us believe about adversity. Of course, there are people in the world that say, things like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, your challenges really help you grow. But I don't know about you. I feel like there's this general sense out in the world that when your life is in a lot of upheaval, that or you're facing a lot of challenges, that like you're doing something wrong. There's a great example of that in the Old Testament when you look at the book of Job. And of course, and I won't go through the whole story of Job, but Job lost a lot in his life, and at a certain point, his friends came to him and said, what have you done to so offend God? What are you doing wrong that you're going through all of these challenges? Well, I think Job knew something about the victory consciousness because he didn't really rail against God when he very well could have. He took his challenges one by one as they came. And this is what Mighty Victory is saying, is that overcoming adversity, having this attitude of victory, this is the meaning of victory and the meaning of life. And that it's really our approach that counts, not all the things happening, but our approach to them. So let's talk about some specific strategies we can take from Mighty Victory to help us develop a better approach than perhaps we've been using. So the first one, you heard this in the excerpt, he talks about being grateful, to be grateful for the things that happen to us. But if we're really being honest with ourselves, that's not usually our first reaction to a tough situation, is it? It's usually a little bit more along the lines of, how did this happen? Or how did I get myself here? How often do we look at a painful circumstance and really say, wow, I am grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful for this challenge. I see it as part of my path to freedom. So, a very simple thing we can do in 2024 is to practice more gratitude, and specifically for the challenges, the adversity that we face. Thank you, God, for this difficult coworker. Thank you, God, for this callous family member that just said one more harsh thing to me that I wasn't expecting. Thank you, God, for this calamity. Thank you, God, for this pain and this sorrow. Thank you for this opportunity to grieve the passing of a loved one. Thank you for this difficult time because I know I will find in it my pathway to victory and freedom. In fact, let's try this now. Just take a moment and close your eyes and think about something that maybe isn't the easiest situation you're facing right now in your life. It might be something with something going on in your family or something with work, but just see an image in your mind's eye that represents that situation for you. Now see a pink ray of God's love going from your heart to surround that entire situation. You can say in your heart and out loud, thank you, God, for this situation. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Won't necessarily make the situation go away, but doesn't it help you feel a little bit more relaxed about the situation, that it isn't the end of the world what you're going through? We can be grateful for these difficult things. So the next strategy is may seem a little bit more extreme for those who are pretty serious people like I am, and that's to laugh at adversity. So Mighty Victory talking about the devil, that proud spirit, cannot stand to be mocked. And so that's what the laughing is laughing at that big challenge. And honestly, it's another one of those things that's pretty hard for most people to do. So Mrs. Prophet taught on this victory dictation. She commented on how there are a lot of mischief makers out there, sort of forces of darkness and demons who like to play pranks on the light bearers. And these types of things eat up our time, they eat up our energy. If you've ever had one of those days at work where the phone's ringing off the hook and you've got 50 extra emails you weren't expecting, and you're just like, people are just wasting my time. It's just all this mischief happening. Laughter can be one of the best tools to defeat those kinds of situations where it's just all this busy work in your life. Some people are pretty good at this actually. They can just start laughing at all of the crazy things happening. I know for me, this is one of the tougher things. If you Those of you who know me know I'm pretty serious, I'm pretty straightforward. But honestly, having a child, my son is 4, watching him and how he faces the world has made this a little easier. And if you've ever had the opportunity to spend time with little children, you know that they always want to play and they like doing silly things. And they can do something that gets you very upset, and next thing you know, they're blowing raspberries at you, frankly. And it's like all you could do to keep yourself from laughing, right? So I find that my son has helped me develop a little bit more of a sense of humor so that I can laugh at some of the outrageous things that are happening in my life. So, another strategy that you can use when you can't really laugh at something and you're struggling to be grateful for it is you can accept it. And sometimes this is the best way to go, especially in those situations where it's hard or not even really appropriate to laugh at something. Perhaps you can accept a challenging situation like the sudden passing of a loved one, or accept the loss of a job, accept a difficult health diagnosis. It can be helpful to remember in these times when you're facing these kinds of adversities that God either makes something happen in our lives or he allows something to happen in our lives. But either way, we see the will of God in the outworking of events, and God is always in charge. I know that remembering that for me has made it easier for me to accept difficult things in my life. And sometimes acceptance actually requires us to go through a grieving process. We're grieving for how life will now be different from the life that we imagined because of the adversity that we're accepting. So, as we're going through this, we can be kind and gracious towards ourselves and others around us. And we can use the spiritual tools that we know to assist us to get to that place of acceptance. This may take some time, and it's okay if it takes time. I think it's important sometimes that we remember the goals that we're striving for, and we remember that we're human through this process of moving towards working through our feelings and working through kind of the sense of the human condition that we are experiencing in any moment. I really get concerned sometimes when I see people who say they're espousing a spiritual path, and it's like they live on this surface level of happiness. And I really don't believe that's what Mighty Victory is asking us to do in this. I believe that he's asking us to do the work to get to the place where we're really at peace, where we can put our hands over our hearts and, like you see in this picture, and say, I'm at peace. I may not like the situation, but I'm at peace about what's happening. So Mighty Victory also talked about mitigating adversity. And so one of the best tools I know for mitigating anything is the violet flame. You see an image of that beautiful violet light of the Holy Spirit on this slide. And I'm sure many of you have been using the violet flame perhaps for decades. Some of you may be a little bit newer to the practice of our spoken prayers and giving violet flame decrees. But either way, it's a good reminder that the violet flame can actually be one of our key tools to help us be victorious in 2024. It can help us with accepting things. It can help us with lessening situations. And I'll actually give you a little bit of a little tip for those of you who may not be aware of this. Sometimes we forget as light bearers, those of us who are really striving on the spiritual path for oneness with God. Um, there are forces of darkness out there that don't particularly like it when the light bearers are trying to be one with God in everything that we do. And so they like to take advantage of what you might call karmic vulnerabilities, or things that have to return to us. Like Mighty Victory was saying, we've set forth causes in our lives and over lifetimes that have repercussions. It's the law of karma, the law of cause and effect. And so as these things are very naturally cycling back to us for our own learning, for our growth and our development as souls on a journey, the forces of darkness see these kind of as holes. And so what can happen is we may experience some returning karma and may feel that as sort of a weight, a heaviness, a kind of negative energy in our lives. But then what can happen is these forces out there can amplify that feeling and make it feel like all of a sudden we're under this huge weight, this huge heaviness that we feel like we're drowning, we may never get out of it. And really what can be happening in those situations is all of that's being amplified. And so the violet flame can help us deal with this extra negative energy so that we can just balance our karma, learn the lessons that God has intended for us to learn, and move on. So that can be a way really to accelerate and expand our sense of the victory consciousness in 2024. So right behind that is causing whatever it is to loosen its hold upon you. And Mrs. Prophet in her lecture on this victory dictation explained, quote, acceleration itself is the key to victory. I'll say that again. Acceleration itself is the key to victory. And here's how she explained this. She said, if you allow your electrons to slow down to a sluggish state, you allow negative energy an opportunity to penetrate into their orbits. If the electrons are whirling, nothing can penetrate. We have spoken of wedges of darkness entering into the four lower bodies, but the only way the wedges can enter in is if the light is not whirling with the intensity of the sun. A waterfall demonstrates the same concept. If you stand in a waterfall and release a waterfall of energy, what can go against that flow? What can go against that tide? If your release is a trickle, however, you can be overcome. So we can use our spiritual tools, we can use our sense of victory and our decisions to be more victorious this year as a way to accelerate ourselves and to live in this sense that things can't really grapple, or connect onto us or latch onto us. I believe it was Mark Prophet who said once that you can't prevent a bird from landing on your head, but you can prevent it from like building a nest there. And so it's this kind of a thing. It's back to this sense of the adversity comes up, but what can we do on a daily basis to cause it to loosen its hold upon us? And I think for all of us, that probably looks a little different. We all have different um, propensities, things that cause us to slow down. So, you might be the kind of person that needs to do a certain set of prayers at your altar every day. You also might be the kind of person that needs to go for a run every day. I know for me, moving my physical body is a way that I can help my mind to loosen up, and in that way let go of some of the things that I face in my life. So think about the different types of things that you can do to cause that negativity or that adversity, those challenges to really loosen their hold upon you. And that brings us to strategy number 6. And I think this might be my favorite one. And that's to ride up over it. And as promised, here's our dinosaur with a little victory car riding over his back. So when Mrs. Proffert lectured on this victory dictation, she said, "It is just quite something how the human mind can produce problems at an extraordinary rate. It's like a problem factory. And it looks around life and it looks around the world and it looks around this force field, and suddenly life, every little facet can be a gigantic problem. That we have to realize that we have to laugh harder than the demons are laughing in their mischief making. And that's essentially the idea of what victory is, being able to ride up over it, as he says later in this dictation. It's really a funny thought form, because if you can see yourself in your little victory car driving all around and getting your job done for the masters, and all of a sudden you come to a big old dinosaur that's standing in your path, and you just ride over it. You just ride up his nose and down the other side and keep on going. And that's Mighty Victory's sense of achievement. So that's what I meant by a dinosaur and a victory car. And I hope this thought form will help you, to help you to laugh off the difficulties. And I know in Summit University and our team, we've used this thought form many times over the years when we've been faced with challenges as a team. And it's almost like we just determine, okay, we're going to get in our victory car, we're going to close the door, we're just going to stare this dinosaur down and go right up over it. And next thing we know, we're laughing and new ideas have come to us. And it just really has helped us over the years. So perhaps it will help you too. Now, I promised a bonus strategy, and here it is. Give victory fiats and decrees. Now, some of you may be new to the practice of the science of the spoken word. We believe profoundly in the Summit Lighthouse that spoken prayer can affect tremendous change in our world. And so by speaking fiats of victory and giving decrees of victory, we can reinforce that victory consciousness in our world. Those of you who are familiar with the Summit Lighthouse's book of decrees and prayers, you know that there is a big collection at the end of the yellow section of the decree book with lots and lots of victory fiats and decrees. But here's a short one that you can say in any moment. So let's just say this together 3 times. Oh God, give me your victory. Give me your victory. Give me your victory. Oh God, give me your victory. Give me your victory. Give me your victory. Oh God, give me your victory. Give me your victory. Give me your victory. Doesn't that feel good? So, for those of you who may be a little bit newer to the victory consciousness, if you'd like something to visualize beyond a golden angel like you see here, that's a statue that represents the cosmic being victory, you can visualize a golden white light coming into your aura as a sense of that victorious accomplishment, a golden white light. Now, many times throughout his dictations, Mighty Victory has asked us to accept these statements of victory into our feeling world. So it's not enough just to say them. It's not good enough to just say, "Oh God, give me your victory, give me your victory." When we say these decrees and fiats, it's really good if we can speak them from the heart, then visualize what we are asking to take place. So see that golden yellow white light surrounding a person, a place, a challenge, a computer, a car that's not working, whatever it is, and then to feel that mighty victory is with us, his legions of angels are with us, and that all is well. And that's a great way to give these victory fiats and decrees. Now, maybe you've tried some of these strategies in your life over the years, and maybe you've felt real moments and even seasons of victory. But if you still don't feel like you've fully become the victory consciousness, you may be wondering, well, what do I do now? I've tried all these things, Justina, but what do I do now? And we know that it's possible to be victorious now because that's what Mighty Victory has said. Our victory for the victory belongs to you now. But sometimes pursuing victory and pursuing our Christhood on the path of the ascension, how many of you have felt that feeling? How long, oh Lord? I know I have. How long, oh Lord, will I have to face all of this adversity? So it can really feel like that kind of a process. So, how does that reconcile with Mighty Victory's statement for your victory belongs to you now? He's saying here that we don't have to wait for our victory. We don't have to wait till some far distant mañana. We can experience our victory now. And the way that we do this, he says, is through the pulsing stream of light that descends from your God presence now. And we know this to be the crystal cord, which is a cord of light that ties from the heart of our I am presence and the planes of spirit to our heart chakra, our heart center of being, where we are in the planes of matter. And so there's light that descends along this crystal cord to us in every moment. And so in every moment, we can choose to live in this victorious consciousness of light that's coming into our heart. And so in that way, we can be victorious now. Think about it. If we're able to do this moment by moment, day by day, step by step, we'll be living in the victory consciousness. So I'm sure you're seeing how this can really benefit you, this concept of living in the victory consciousness and getting to the place where you can live in the victory consciousness moment by moment, day by day. But can this help other people in our world? Can this help our organization, the Summit Lighthouse? Absolutely. And Moria gave us an important dictation on the 33rd anniversary of the Summit Lighthouse. And those of you who have been with the Summit Lighthouse for a long time, you're probably very familiar with this dictation. It's been quoted and cited for the last several years because we are approaching the possible renewal of the Summit Lighthouse's dispensation this year in 2024, in August. And I believe that now more than ever, we really need to embrace the victory consciousness, and here's why. In Moria's dictation, he spoke about the last time that the Summit Lighthouse's dispensation was renewed. And a dispensation, for those of you who don't know, is a gift. It's a grant of light that can be given to a person or an organization to be almost like a catalyst to accelerate something to do greater good on the planet. And so when the Summit Lighthouse's dispensation was renewed 33 years ago, Moria stated that in order for that to happen, in order for the sponsorship of the Summit Lighthouse to be renewed at that time, it was required that there should be found in this community, the community of the Summit Lighthouse, souls of light embodying a certain portion of their Christhood. And developing in this victory consciousness is allowing us to become closer to our Christ self and our I am presence. And what's interesting is that in the dictation, Moria didn't define this portion of Christhood outright, but he spoke of, quote, disciples well on their way to embodying that Christhood, having the cast of the mind of Christ and of what Christ would do in each situation. I'm sorry, having the cast of mind of Christ and of what Christ would do in each situation. So we don't know exactly how this next dispensation will be earned for the Summit Lighthouse. But from Moria's comments and studying his dictation, I believe that it's safe to say that Christhood is going to play an important role. It's going to be a significant factor, and greater Christhood in our organization is going to be a significant factor. So, of all of the years of striving for greater Christhood, perhaps this year is the most important year. And I believe that we can really get there by embracing more of this victory consciousness. Before I wrap things up, I'd like to give you a little bit more victory inspiration, if you will. After all, Mighty Victory isn't the only master who's taught us about the victory consciousness. So Saint Germain has also spoken about the victory consciousness. And when he was speaking about America in a dictation he gave in 1975, he said, quote, "My vision is the vision of victory, and I will speak only of victory. I will hear only of victory. I will see only victory. I will be only victory." And do you know what I think? I think that Mighty Victory will enlist me in his legions. Would you not also enjoy being called forth to serve in those legions of victory, being selected from among your peers that by that mighty cosmic being who says to you, "Come with me, your aura is the golden light of victory, the laurel wreath shines from you by your God determination. I will enlist you in my host of light. This is indeed a privilege." End of the quote from Saint Germain. Isn't that a powerful, powerful statement from Saint Germain? You can imagine Saint Germain being a part of Mighty Victory's legions, working towards the victory of America and our world. He came back in 1992 with an entire dictation entitled "For the Victory," which we've played in Summit University before. It's a great dictation for those of you who've never heard it, or those of you who have heard it and just need a boost of victory consciousness. So here's one short statement from that. He said, Saint Germain says, "Blessed hearts, the only reason to get out of bed in the morning is for the victory. There is no other reason to get out of bed. Hear me. You must have the victorious spirit. You must claim it from Mighty Victory. You must claim it from Justina and all of the hosts of heaven." So we are encouraged to have this victory consciousness. He said a little bit later on, "Get up for the victory, go to bed for the victory, work for the victory, eat for the victory, be joyous and happy for the victory. But always and always and always give the earth, give yourself, give all whom you meet that victory spend. I say do it and be glorious about it, be triumphant about it, be magnanimous about it, but be it." So there we have again. This is more than just the words on the page. This is more than the statement of the master. We are urged by Saint Germain to be victory in all that we do. So the master Serapis Bey is another one who has spoken on the victory consciousness. And you may recall a dictation that he gave in 1966 called "Persevere and you shall win." When he spoke of perseverance, I think it's really interesting how he described this. Listen to this statement. Serapis says, "To persevere in all that is of the past, so that the untransmuted and banal aspects thereof may become vanquished in the name of victory. To persevere in the present hour when the drabness of appearances and the seeming slowness of pace does not temper the zeal of the fire of the heart. To persevere in the future by a glorious hope that refuses to leave the screen of the mind. To persevere at all times and to win." So there we have it again, to persevere past, present, and future, and to win. Doesn't that give you a great feel for what that victorious sense of accomplishment can feel like in our day-to-day lives? That's really the sense of, can you put one foot in front of the other over and over and over again? Use the strategies that we've talked about to laugh at adversity, accept it, be grateful for it, mitigate it, cause it to loosen its hold upon us, and just ride up over it. So Kazumi also spoke about the victory consciousness that he talked about in relationship to another concept that's also important, and that is future thinking. Now, I wanted to include this because I was thinking that you might get to this point of the presentation and say, "Okay, Justina, I can do this. I can put one victorious foot in front of the other. But what about the days when the going gets really tough?" And we all have those days on the spiritual path. This is not a path where um, it's all just cake and roses all the time. That's not the path that the ascended masters have painted for us. They've shown us a way where, as we work through our karma, some days could be really challenging. But this is a strategy that we can use, and in fact, the ascended masters used, and it's called future thinking. So Kazumi talked about this in 1979 during the World Teacher Seminar on Jeremiah. And in the middle of a dictation, he asked the audience, he took them from where they were all sitting at that time, and he took them to what he defined as the moment of the finish line, where everyone was a winner in the race of life. And he said, visualize myself and Jesus and Saint Germain there to witness this great victory that you're having at this time. And then he asked the audience to hear and feel how that moment would be in the victory of their life. And then he explained that life can be a transfer on the timeline, and that we can be in the moment of victory even as we are in the moment of becoming. And we've talked about this already, that being is becoming. And so there's this process of becoming something, becoming this victory consciousness, becoming the Christ. So what Kathumi is saying is that we can jump ahead and see ourselves having the victory. Maybe it's the victory of the adversity that we're facing in a moment. Maybe it's the victory of a lifetime. Maybe it's the victory of thousands of lifetimes where we're getting ready to make our ascension. And Kathumi said we can project ourselves out to that moment, and then we can jump right back in to where we are now. That we don't just exist in this particular moment of time and space, what we define as the present. Now, to me, this next statement that you see in the second paragraph of the slide is the most comforting, or some of the most comforting words I've ever heard from Ascended Master. He says, why we, the Ascended Masters, do this all the time when we are saving worlds. It saves our sanity. We jump into the moment of victory. We, if you will, indulge it for a moment, and then we go back, for we have set our sights and we know where we are going, and we know that it is the accelerated line, the intensity, that makes all things possible. So the Ascended Masters use future thinking, and they do so to save their sanity. Certainly, if they need a tool like this, don't we? Don't we need something like this in our lives? So Kasumi went on to explain from that point that this whole process of jumping ahead to this moment of victory, to experience this sense of victory, it isn't for relaxation. It's to get a renewed determination to carry on. And I'm sure you've experienced this in your lives when you've had a challenge, and then all of a sudden you see the finish line. Um, I'll share with you something I dealt with earlier today. I was reorganizing my son's entire toy closet, and at one moment, the entire closet was empty, and all of the toys were spread out across my dining room and living room. And I have pictures of the piles. It was just huge and looked like chaos. And I said to myself, Justina, you're going to feel a lot better about this when it's over and all the toys are put away. And you know what? 3.5 hours later, I did. And I'm grateful. All the toys are now put away and organized, and we can find things again. But it's just a very simple example of using this future thinking to get yourself to that place where you can get that determination to keep on going, and you can intensify and accelerate in those moments. So, because if you don't, and this is what Kazumi says later on, the victory may not happen. So sometimes we need to have these moments where we go ahead so that we can bring back that strength that we need to keep going. Future thinking is not an escape. This is not the same as just daydreaming our lives away. It's a helpful tool for embracing more of the victory consciousness in our lives. If this particular tool sounds appealing to you, we actually studied more on future thinking and the victory consciousness in an online Summit University course called the Crash Course on Adeptship. And there is a really particular reason for that we saw. In the process of preparing for that course, we realized that the victory consciousness and the ability to be a future thinker were actually critical components to walking the paths of mysticism and adeptship. And these are the paths that lead us to the final initiations that Jesus demonstrated, including the ritual of the Ascension. So, I want to leave you kind of with something to think about. You know, maybe this is a tool you haven't yet put into practice in your lives, but it's really something that may be of great use to you. So let's summarize. What have we talked about? What have we talked about here in this presentation? Being victorious in 2024 is really important. It's important for ourselves. It's important for our community. It can help raise up the world. I know Mark Prophet gave an example once of a napkin. And if we can be a point on the napkin that is going up in consciousness, it will raise the whole napkin. And so in that way, embracing the victory consciousness in any moment can be helping out our brothers and sisters of light on the other side of the world that we may have never even met. In summary, we've talked about using the 6 strategies and the bonus strategy that I shared on the victory consciousness. We've talked about seeking inspiration in the words of other ascended masters. And I promise you, if you go out there and look for other masters who are talking about the victory consciousness, you will find them. We can practice future thinking. Perhaps that's a new skill for you. I really encourage you to try it out if you haven't. And remember, we need the victory consciousness to be the Christ, to take this whole idea of believing that we will become the Christ someday into thinking and feeling that we are the Christ moment by moment as we embrace this victory consciousness in our lives. So I thank you all for the opportunity to discuss the victory consciousness with you. And we'll take a few moments of Q&A here, and then I'll talk about your special gift.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Justina. That was wonderful. Good reminders of victory strategies, and the bonus is wonderful. Haven't tried that. I'm going to try it soon. People have questions for Justina? Comments, reactions? And Bethel.
Yes, good morning. Oh, it is fast. I just wanted to share with you something that I shared with my children when they were having a real heavy day. And I used to teach them that God was their father. And if he was testing them, to remember that was a good thing to do, because he doesn't bother testing those he doesn't love. So every time a test comes, that means God loves you.
Thank you so much, Anne. That's such a beautiful way to take what's actually, when you really study that, a rather complex idea, and to instill that in children at a young age. I'm gonna have to try that with my son. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
There's another hand raised, but I can't see it.
It's grateful.
Okay, that's me. So, Justina, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I have a little question. Was that Mark Prophet dictating? Because the voice sounded, it didn't sound like his usual voice. So I was just wondering.
In the excerpt, yes, that was Mark Prophet, and you heard right at the beginning of that excerpt like a real acceleration and a real like intensity of energy in his speaking. That definitely wasn't a dictation from Mother Mary. That was from Mighty Victory. And so I think you might hear a little bit of a voice change. It also could be too something between Zoom and your computer and everybody else's computer.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Justina, one of the things I teach all my students in graduate school and business school to have a plan B. But in my life, I always tell people I don't have a plan B. And they say, why not? I say, because failure is not an option. Victory is the only option.
I think that's great, Patricia. And I would just add to that, you could see with all the different strategies that we have for embracing the victory consciousness, and I honestly feel like I only highlighted a few. There are so many more ways of doing that. But I think what you see there is that your plans B, C, D, E, F are let's try something else. Let's try something else. Let's just keep on going. Let's hop in the victory car and see if we can drive over the dinosaur.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Warren.
Yes, thank you. Justina, are you going to distribute those screenshots that you had? Because there was a very distracting black bar across the bottom. I couldn't see all of the screenshots you were sharing.
I hadn't intended to, but that's a great idea, Lawrence. Let me see. I'll work with the organizers to see if we can get the PowerPoint slides as a handout for all of you.
Yeah, those are really great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello. Yeah, thanks so much, Justina. That was awesome. My question was if we will be able to watch this again later.
Always. We
Okay,
always
good.
post the links for the replay,
Thank
and
you.
it will be up usually by Tuesday night at the latest. Great questions. Comments? Any more questions or comments about the victory consciousness?
I want to comment that I recently listened to Mother's lecture on the Golden Age Prince from 1983. And I was really surprised. I heard about Francis Bacon a lot, but what I didn't know is what happened after Queen Elizabeth died. And later he gave a dictation in 1968, and he never really did anything dishonest, but he was still going to be thrown in prison. And the king commanded him to say guilty, and he did it. And he had the victory consciousness because he trusted God so much that he did that. And then later, Mother said that Saint Germain said the reason he was, Mother asked why that happened to him, and he said karma. And so it was an opportunity for him to make the right decision so he could make his ascension, because he made his ascension after that embodiment. I thought it was amazing because he suffered many, many more injustices than I ever realized.
Yeah, and on
So-
that note, the book is coming out next month on Francis Bacon, the Golden Age Prince, and Saint Germain's embodiment. So we're looking forward to that, based on that lecture.
And I'd just like to comment on what you said, Rosalinda, because I believe that if you study the lives of the Ascended Masters, and in particular their final ones close to their ascension, you see similar patterns of a victorious spirit and an overcoming of extreme adversity in different ways. The one master that's coming to mind for me is Serapis Bey. When he was embodied as King Leonidas of Sparta, that wasn't his final embodiment, but it was one of his last. And you see in that embodiment there was tremendous adversity that he had to face, right down to having the victory on the battlefield, for the city-states of Greece. So, but he's not, the Serapis and Saint Germain as Francis Bacon, not the only ones. You can look at Amoria's embodiments and others, and those final embodiments. I mean, think, if nothing else, think of our beloved Jesus and all of the adversity that he had to face. So I'm not kidding when I say I believe that this victory consciousness is critical when we get close to the end of our soul's journey and we get close to reuniting with our I Am Presence in the ritual of the ascension. It's like we can't do it without that.
Amen. I hope we're all getting closer to that final embodiment and can be grateful for all of our challenges in this lifetime and laugh at adversity, and especially all those devils that Mark Prophet says are little devils. Thank you so much, Justina. I really appreciate your being with us. I hope you'll come and be with us again. And next month, we're going to be meeting again on the 18th, and Reverend Patrick Danahy will be presenting, and his title is Truth and Beauty. What more need we?
I think it's the 17th. It's
Is it the 17th?
Patrick's Day. On
You're right.
Sunday.
It is St. Patrick's Day. Thank you very much, Susan.
How appropriate.
I don't want to miss it.
So I promised you all a special gift. So in Summit University, we always like to give you options for further study whenever you've studied anything with us. So I have a few for you, for those of you interested in diving more deeply into the victory consciousness. So the first is the book, The Mandate of Victory, which is a collection of 40 dictations given by the cosmic being Victory through our messengers. And in Summit University several years ago, we prepared a free book study. That's a victory email series. And you can find this on our website at summituniversity.org. And it's basically like you sign up for the first email, and then each week you get a new email that gives you study questions to pair with the chapter that you're reading for the week. A third option, if you're curious about some of Mother's teachings, Mrs. Prophet's teachings in Summit University, you may not know this, but in the year 2000, several of Mighty Victory's dictations were published as parts of the Pearls of Wisdom, including the one that I played an excerpt from today, Victory's Way of Life. That's volume 43, number 2. And then the next 3 pearls, numbers 3 through 5, are Mother's lecture on this dictation. This is one of 3 lectures that she gave on the same day on 3 different dictations from Mighty Victory. So that first one's been published, and I'm sure you will enjoy it if you've never studied that teaching before. Now, the final options for you come with a special gift from Summit University, and that is, I'd recommend we have 2 courses. One is called The Victory Way of Life, which includes Mother's 3 lectures that she gave on January 25th, 1977 in Summit University. That's an online self-study course. And then the Crash Course in Adeptship, which I mentioned, which is also an online self-study course. Now, I'm not sure, I think the black bar is hiding what the discount is, but you see those words, you go back, Rosalinda, see the words golden path? Golden path. If you go to summituniversity.org and you want to take an online self-study course, that golden path is going to give you 20% off any of Summit University's online self-study courses. So that's our special gift to you from Summit University. And we'll get you the slide so that you can see that with the link of where to go and find those courses in our course catalog. But thank you so much, everyone. It's been wonderful exploring this topic with you, and I hope this sets you on a course of self-transformation from transforming your belief in being victorious this year to being victorious this year. Always victory, everyone.
Thank you, Justina. Always victory. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Justina.